Welcome to the Firebelly Social Show. We're focused on talking to food and beverage brands that are on a mission to make the world better.
Hey everyone, Duncan here. Welcome to another episode of the Firebelly Social Show. I'm Duncan, and we have Arnell, my co-host here, and we feature leaders of mission-driven food and beverage brands. So we're so excited to have everyone here today, and Arnell has a quick sponsor message for us.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to this latest episode of the Firebelly Social Show. We have a great show lined up for you today, talking with Arshad, founder of purpose-driven health food brand Amrita Health Foods. This episode is brought to you by Firebelly Marketing. At Firebelly, we help mission-based food and beverage brands bring people closer through social media marketing. So if you're ready to use social media to create more excitement and engagement around your food and beverage brand, go to firebellymarketing.com to learn more.
Hey, Arshad, welcome to the show. We're so happy to have you here.
Thanks, Duncan. Thanks, Arnell.
And tell us, Arshad, Amrita Health Foods. Tell us, where did the name come from originally?
Yeah, so when I started the company about a decade ago, I asked my dad to give me an idea about the name because I didn't want to name it a bar. There's so many companies with bars. And the word Amrit means nectar in Sanskrit. And we were making stuff with dates and dried fruits and sweet. So that's what it is at the end of the day.
It's a wonderful name, and I wanted our listeners to hear straight from your mouth where the inspiration came from. And I think let's get a little bit. I don't want to dive too deeply because I know you've told this story before. Let's get a little bit into the origin story. I know so many founders like yourself are driven by a personal need that that is unfulfilled for them. Tell us a little bit about the origin story of the company.
Yeah. So my son was the inspiration behind the company. He's 19 now. When he was 2, he was diagnosed with autism. And he was a kid who had a really bad gastrointestinal problem. So the correlation between GI issues and autism in boys is very high. It's about 70% correlation. And so luckily we had a pediatric doctor who was also an autism doctor who was doing a study on GI and low inflammation diet and autism. It was a study out of Columbia University. And he said, well, I've got this theory that kids with autism could benefit from a low inflammation diet, but I don't have enough data points to prove it. Would you like your son to enroll? And we were basically looking for anything and everything to help us, with the autism piece of the puzzle. And so we said, yes, happy to do that. And, about 6 months into removing gluten, dairy, soy, and a few other inflammatory products, he started doing a lot better. His speech started coming back. And so we could start seeing the connection. It took us about a year to really see the full effects of it. And then we knew that there was a relationship between what he ate, how his gut recovered, and how he was starting to recover from the traditional gaps that autism causes. Autism typically causes gaps around speech, eye contact, social behavior, issues and things like that. Those all start coming back to normal levels once your body starts healing itself. And that's exactly what happened. Now my son is 19, regular college and all that, right? But this was 10 years ago. We were using dates and dried fruits as a way to do social sensory work with him. So kneading the stuff. And then we said, why do we throw all of this away? Let's take this and make it into cookies and take it to a farmer's market, take him there, help him talk to people, social skills. And we just so happened to meet the Whole Foods buyer, came by the farmer's market, loved the story, asked us, if he would sell these products at Whole Foods. And we're like, we have no idea about this industry. But that was the start. Right? That was 10 years ago. One Whole Food started doing well there. That was an origin story.
Incredible genesis, unbelievable. And so now things have changed. I mean, you've come a long way and you're going to go way further. What have been some of the, I think in our early conversations, you mentioned pivot points. What have been a couple of pivot points for you that you want to share with people?
Yeah. So when I came into this, I didn't come into this industry because I wanted to be in food or anything. I had a really good corporate job. My background is business school and all that. And was working at IBM and corporate, but I always had entrepreneurship sort of on the side. Like I was watching people who are entrepreneurs and also through IBM because of the tech nature of stuff and kind of like wanting to be an entrepreneur, but didn't have something to jump into. This gave me that thing to jump into. And then, so I left IBM to pursue the business, but obviously had no idea about the food industry and made all my classical mistakes, like, went directly into retail, invested a ton of my money, and grew, but not profitably grew the business. I did that for 5 years and was pretty successful, got 2,000 stores nationwide, but then realized that it wasn't a sustainable business being bootstrapped. The food industry just requires a lot of investment to grow. And so I wanted to stay bootstrapped. I didn't want to take venture money. So then I pivoted about 5 years ago to e-commerce. And that's been my journey, is more e-commerce now, less retail. And then 3 years ago, we pivoted to having our own manufacturing company. And so we're make our own products, vertically integrated, mostly e-commerce, a little bit of retail, and profitable bootstrap business.
I mean, congratulations, first of all, right, Arnel? Congratulations that you have the courage, and I know you're probably so busy and you are always thinking about the next thing. And I'm sure that, we just want to say congratulations on the courage. I mean, the courage, we talk to so many founders, and it's a very different story, actually, because a lot of founders, the stuff that you've left behind is the stuff that they aspire to. It's like, oh, we want to be in retail. We're trying to we're doing another round and, we're trying to get bought. And I resonate with it, as fellow Indian immigrants. I mean, I resonate with it because, yes, it is a struggle and you're in it on a daily basis, but we are also in the same vein, completely bootstrapped, profitable. And there's a great satisfaction and freedom, I think, from being profitable and not having your vision diluted by venture, decision makers.
What would you say is some of the big benefits from switching, from the old forms of retail to e-commerce, for other people who are in a similar position as you were 5 years ago and, or maybe learning some of the same things you've learned then? What would you say is the biggest benefit?
I think it really comes down to control, right? At the end of the day, and do you want to do this long term or do you want to do it for an exit? I feel like I got into this because it's a lifestyle business for me. I want to be in it long term. I don't want a 2-year exit, 5-year exit, and I think a lot of the people who go for the money want the exit. And that's really what they're driven by. They're not really driven by building something long term. So that's one. I think the control part is the other thing. Some people are really okay with not having much control over their business or what they're doing. I'm just not that way. I if I'm working my ass off, on the business, I don't want somebody pulling the rug out underneath me because they wrote me a check. And this happens over and over and over again in this, not just in this industry, but just whenever you're taking somebody else's check. And so those are the two things, right? I also believe that we're living in the creator economy right now. And there is absolutely no reason for anybody to not to be able to build a bootstrap business. Yeah, you can go slow, but if you can figure out how to be a creator, you can be a creator in food, you can be in media like you guys are and anywhere else, and be able to do it bootstrap and build, but do it at the pace that is okay for you, right? We, we have a 5,000 square feet facility that we pay for. We have 5 employees. We're paying above living wages for, and we're still profitable. And it's literally like when I tell my colleagues in the food industry, they fall off their chairs because they're all not profitable. And I say, the biggest thing is like, we're not spending crazy amounts on ads. We're constantly doing our own SEO, our own blog writing, our own photography. We don't, very, very few paid consultants on our team. And we're completely okay growing 10% a year. Absolutely okay doing that. So I think that those are the main differences.
I think it's a wonderful story. There's so many beautiful elements to that story: independence, the creator economy, the value for people. It just is. And I'll say that maybe the one thing I want to emphasize that our listeners hear is typically when you hear someone say a lifestyle business, it's like, hey, I'm just trying to, I'm a business person and I'm trying to just basically do a lifestyle, and I'm not focusing on the process. I'm just a lifestyle. In this situation, I think the clarification is that Arshad is running a business with best practices, and he doesn't want to exit. So, when people say, I just wanted to say that, Arshad, because a lot of times when people say lifestyle, it's like, hey, it's just kind of going about it willy-nilly, and I think that
lifestyle is used as the negative word quite a bit. I think people should really sit down and think about it. Is it a negative word or not? It's actually, the amount of stress that people go through, having a lifestyle business that pays you well, that allows you the freedom to work when you want to work. So those are amazing things why people become an entrepreneur, and then they forget that once they're in it, right? So, if you look at people, there's so many amazing creators now out there who are making amazing living by working 3-day weeks, 4-day weeks, and still top of their game in terms of thought leadership, what they're putting out there. So I think that's the difference: is you do less, but you do amazing work, and you're okay with maybe earning less, but just what you need.
That's a lovely. I was in such a deep conversation today with some other guys at lead agencies about this preoccupation in our world with the exit. It's like, hey, and I was asked today, well, what's your magic number? What would you give this all up for? And I'm like, first of all, I turn down people who want to buy our business on a regular basis. Number one, we've never taken any money from anyone. And I don't have an exit in mind. It's like, I love what I'm doing. And, I'm employing people. I'm encouraging people. It's a beautiful thing. And so not everyone has to follow that. I think, there's and for some people, it is like a very attractive thing. Because media is such a low barrier to entry. Not the case in food.
Yeah.
So, thank you for sharing that. And honestly, Arnel, we haven't heard too many stories. I know, we hear about big companies swooping in and, helping with CapEx and like people buying things. You don't hear a whole lot about people growing, especially, going to e-commerce as opposed to the other. In fact, we had someone here the other day that said that he didn't believe that social was even important, and he said that, of course, it's also a company that's totally funded by someone else. But let's talk about the innovation lab. This is a great topic, I think. Talk about, I know Arnel is all about innovation, so we want to hear about innovation.
Yeah. So, I used to, I really believe that if you're small, you really have 2 plays. One is you're doing something that has an IP, and typically food doesn't have IP, unless you're very, very, very few areas of food have IP. So besides that, the only advantage you have is either you've got a lot of cash to grow really fast and take over shelf space, or you're innovating constantly, right? So the market is always telling you what the consumers are looking for. So 3 years ago, it was keto. Now keto sort of gone down. Now it's low sugar. It's gut healthy probiotics, prebiotics. It's mental health. So if you take those cues from the market and you think about what ingredients can I use to satisfy what the market is asking for? It's really simple. It's like in your business, it would be, how can I give something where attention is where people are asking for attention, right? Here the attention is somebody's saying, I want to have less sugar. Can you make me energy bars with less sugar? Right? And my job as in the innovation lab is to make those products. So because I have my own factory, I can whip these products up pretty fast. I don't have to go to a co-packer and do minimum runs. I can do a run of 1,000 units. And because e-commerce allows me to put 1,000 units out and get feedback on those 1,000 units, right? If I just put a survey out to my existing base and I say, I made these new bars, you can have it for free. All I need is a feedback. And so this is where innovation is such an important part of when you're bootstrap, you're able to move on a dime and answer the demands of the market and keep innovating.
That's so important. I feel like, especially when we think about trends, food trends, one of the things that you mentioned before we got on was the importance of staying on top of those trends. And, when keto was popular, different things like that, gluten-free, sugar-free, and being able to act so quickly is so important. What are one of your favorite bars? What is your favorite bar flavor?
Yeah, so it depends on, like in the morning, I typically have one of my dark chocolate quinoas with coffee. It just pairs really well.
Sounds good.
And then when I'm working out, I like one of my fruit bars, like a mango coconut or an apple cinnamon, something light like that works really well. So yeah.
I mean, we were just talking about how you remind us of Samantha Abrams from Emmy's Organics, where I don't know if you're familiar with that product or not.
Yeah, no, both of them really well.
Yeah, he was on the show recently, and I mean, you know the story. It was driven by his need for food that he could consume. Then, lots of great stories along the way. So shout out to her, and also
they also build their own factory, right? Very similar story, right? And they also did a lot of e-commerce, and then their lucky break was Starbucks took them on, right? So very similar paths. And I always tell people, don't be afraid of manufacturing, right? A lot of people are really, really afraid of getting their hands dirty working in a factory. But I think it's been the best thing we have done. I'm sure Samantha will say the same thing. There's other people like Midday Squares. Everybody who is manufacturing says that it is a massive competitive advantage. I mean, it takes a couple years to get there because you got to invest so much time and effort to be an operations person, besides being a marketing person and a finance person and all of the other things you got to be as a founder. But once you do it, the competitive advantage is massive.
And I think that, what you said about, doing the short run products, and, you're not taking this massive bet on you're getting thousands and thousands of units out there and then seeing whether people even like it. And, you don't know how to get the word out. And I think that's interesting, right? And is it safe to say that solving that kind of traditional co-packing dilemma is a key, to kind of like long-term success?
I think it is. I think it comes back to control, right? The more you can control, and the important place is, right, you want to control your supply chain. You want to get the best ingredients you can. You want to make the product, and then you want to be able to tell the story, right? So or you want to control the product from when it gets made to when it gets to your consumer's hands. So what happens in retail is that you don't control it when it leaves your factory, because it goes through a store and then it goes to a consumer's hands, and you don't get the data. E-commerce gives you that data. Your demographics, like we know exactly how the purchase of our products breaks down across states. Like, why is there a hotspot in Florida for our products and so on and so forth. And then we can do very targeted marketing based on that data that you can't do with retail. So I think that's really a lot of this is understanding where the control is and how much of it can you hold on to. Not everything, you cannot hold on to everything, but as much as you can.
That's a wonderful point. I wrote that down. I think also telling the story, that's such a powerful thing. I saw both you and Arnell nodding over there. It's like telling the story is such a powerful thing, right? How do you tell the story? And how do you get that story out on social media? And you're, like, you're solving that. And how does that work with the social media piece?
So we have not done a good job with media the last 2 years while we've been busy with the factory. But it's changing rapidly now because we realized that we were making it too formal before. Like we were trying to polish the stuff, try all of that. Now I will given everybody on the team permission to take their phones out and to shoot videos, right? So we should never do that because we're worried, what if somebody shows something that's proprietary, blah, blah, blah. Now we're like, so what? Right? Nobody's going to build this exact factory if I show them how I built this factory, right? So I actually had an employee of mine who told me last week she loves TikTok. I am dead scared of being on TikTok, right? So she came in today. She did all our TikTok videos. Now we are on TikTok going forward. And yep. So, and then there, I have a really hard time writing. I'm not a writer. And I said, I absolutely have to write. I have to write constantly. So I force myself every single day, 1 hour, I've got to write. It's from 5 to 7 a.m. I've got to find an hour to write. So I use a couple tools to help me. I use Ahrefs to find topics that are of interest. I use SEO.ai, an AI tool that helps me write. And I'm pumping out 4,000 to 5,000 word blogs every single day. Okay, 4 days. I could not do that. I couldn't even do one blog a month before. So now I've figured out how to do it. And I think, so I'm not spending much money. I'm just spending time, intention. And I've told my team that media is really important to us. Film, we're going to dedicate time to this. So I think that's what's critical is that brands need to realize that they are a brand for that. The word of the brand is it's a storytelling machine. And that's the advantage small brands have over Coca-Cola, right? People want to hear what's interesting about a small brand, what's different. A lot of people don't want to hear what's interesting and different about Coca-Cola, right? So I think that's to me, that was I think what I lost the last 2 years with not paying attention to it. And now we're really paying a lot of attention to storytelling at the highest level.
And that's such an, I think there is a lot to be said about authenticity, right? It's like, hey, it's not super polished, and that's where the appeal is. It's like, and also we're not spending, most brands, I would say, like 95% of the brands out there aren't spending hundreds of millions of dollars on awareness. It's like, you're not putting Amrita into the next Spider-Man movie like Coke is doing, right? So it's like, hey, we're never going to compete with them, but we can be more real than them.
Yeah, and I think the American public, I would say the global public, really is interested in quirky stories, right? It's really interested in behind the scenes. So I used to always be worried about doing them because I felt that they didn't portray us in the best light. And what if somebody saw a dirty bucket on the floor? I was like, well, so be it. It's a factory, Yeah. So what? And so now we sort of let out, we're just saying this is how we're doing things, and we're finding that response being really strong. We're growing organically, right? We just really believe in that the organic route is a powerful route. But you have to invest in it. Like it cannot be one of these things where the founder says, okay, I want to grow organically, and then hires a bunch of SEO writers and doesn't really invest in it. Right? You got to invest as a brand owner. And I would say the best person to follow in this is probably Gary Vaynerchuk, people like that. Like, look at what that man has done for 25 years, and, even if it's a morsel of that some of us can pick up and do, will really help the brand.
I mean, it's interesting you mentioned that, because I remember first hearing about brand as publisher, like, I don't know, 10, 11 years ago, or 10 years ago. And the idea that the brand, especially with social, the brand has the ability to publish its own perspective, and so we before social, we never really, I guess we had it with vlogs, but I think you mentioned Gary V. Gosh, what a machine, right? It's like pumping out stories, like using other people's stories to support his own, perspective. And it is true. And by being overly focused on being polished, it's really a missed opportunity. It's like, it's okay. Our perspective is like, hey, if it's 60% there, it's better than it's not there at all. Just get it out there.
And I totally agree with you. Yeah. And, but I was, even though I knew all that, it took me a while to get over that. And I would tell a lot of founders, just pull your phone out, just talk to it, do something every single day. Make it like, just like you're making a sales call. Make brand work equal to sales work.
I mean, and it's interesting. Do you do anything with LinkedIn at all?
Yeah, super active on LinkedIn. But LinkedIn is interesting. LinkedIn is a little bit like a drug to me, and I'm trying to figure it out. I think it's more it tickles my ego sometimes, which is not really that good. But LinkedIn is a great networking opportunity that I think solves my introverted nature. So I'm not somebody who goes out to big networking events and all that. It's just, it's not me. On LinkedIn, I can meet amazing people really fast, and then I can pick up the phone and call people. So it works really well for me. I think LinkedIn can work really well for creators. And you're seeing a lot of creators starting to do well there. So we're still trying to figure out, it's not a great place for individual brands because you don't have consumers buying. But I, as a founder, want to keep growing. So that's where LinkedIn comes in. And I say, it's for me to meet other cool people doing interesting things, learn from them, tell them what I'm doing, and they in turn would give me ideas of what they're doing, right? So that's kind of how I use LinkedIn.
Very cool. I totally relate with the introvertedness. It's a little bit easier to make connections online first and then follow up. Yes. So personal question for you. What does a typical workday look like for you?
So I'm an early morning person. I've always been that way. I don't have a hard time waking up by 4:30-ish. So I typically will get up. I've been trying to meditate. It's a hard thing for me. I think I'm so ADD. Meditation is just so difficult for me. But I try at least 5 minutes as soon as I wake up, just sit down, calmly, do something, right? Then grab a cup of coffee. I make some fresh brew coffee, and then I sit down and do my writing, right? Writing is this new meditation for me. I do that till about 7. I plan my day out, check out what else I have going on. My kids are out by 7. I typically drop them off I spend about an hour with my kids in the morning, getting them breakfast. My wife has a job that works more on the European time frame, London time. So she's really busy in the mornings and she'll pick up the afternoons. So I do the mornings, I drop them off. I drive in, I've got a 1-hour drive. I'm typically listening to podcasts. And by 9:30, 9:15, I'm typically at the factory and we're running production. And I do that till 1. So I go straight till 1:30. 1:30, I'll typically grab a smoothie, for my ride back. I'm back home by 2:30, and quite often I try to call it a day then. But I know I still have work to do. I have emails to answer and all that, but I try to like not work till 5, 6, and then I'll crack open the computer after dinner, give myself an hour just to get through email. And that's an ideal day for me, but not all days are like that. There'll be crisis, and some days I'm at the factory till 5 o'clock because a machine broke down or something. But yeah, I work 4-day weeks at the factory. So we're in production 3 days, and the fourth day is prep and clean up for the next week. And then Fridays are my open days. I typically like to do media work, video, photography, podcasts. Yeah. And then Saturdays and Sundays, if during the summer, I'm doing a lot of sampling. So I like to interact with consumers, go to events, hand out products and things like that. So I'm still working, if you add up all the hours, probably a 40-hour week, but I try to make most days be less than 6 hours. 5 hours is an ideal day for me. Anything more, if it gets to be 7, 8 hours, I start getting really grumpy. So
I love it. 5-hour day. I mean, that's phenomenal. That's such a great aspiration. And
yeah, but I still do, I'm still working 6 days a week, but I find 5, 6 hours, 6 days a week for me is better than 8, 9 hours, 4 days a week. But I don't know, I just spread it out because my mind is always going, and I feel like I can always work as an entrepreneur. I like what I do, so I've sort of forced myself to not do it and do something else. So
Very cool.
But what about fun? What does Arshad do for fun?
I love riding my bike. I'm a cyclist. And I really enjoy spending time with my family. I've got 3 kids. One just went to college. He's a freshman. The other one is a year away from going to college. And then I've got an 11-year-old. So I don't really have that much time when they will want to spend time with me. So I really want to use a lot of my time with them now. I also have aging parents. In Toronto, and I want to spend a lot of time with them. So family is a really big part of my, kind of, I guess, my Indian upbringing. Yeah, those are the things that interest me. Staying healthy, being grounded in family, and, working on my business.
I mean, I can certainly share the aging parents and the young children perspective. So I know Arnel has a question. Arnel, I'll let you ask the next question. I have one quick question in the meantime. Arshad, I have this lurking suspicion that you like to cook. Am I right or am I wrong?
Yeah, I love cooking. Yeah. And I'm one of those people that doesn't follow recipes when I cook. It's so interesting because I absolutely have to follow a recipe when I make my products, for manufacturing. But once I'm out of the factory, it's kind of, I guess a lot of us, the Indian subcontinent, grew up on taste and smell. Like we tasted the food and said, yeah, it's got enough spice in it or not. And yeah, so yeah.
Are you familiar with Asma Khan's work?
Yeah.
Well, she was an early guest on our podcast, and do you have her books?
I don't know.
All right,
but I think
Arnel, we're definitely sending him one of the books, no question.
Definitely.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I think culinary is, and that's the reason why I'm in food, is because I really enjoy the culinary side of stuff. I'm not in it because it's a growth industry. It's like, we see a lot of entrepreneurs get into an industry because the TAM model or some model told them that there was a lot of opportunity there. The people who stick around the longest in an industry really deeply care about why they're doing what they're doing. And I deeply care about culinary, like making food that people get enjoyment out of eating.
Yeah, I love that. Tell us a little bit about Amrita Health Foods is mission based. Tell me a little bit about what that means for you guys.
Yeah. So I think I mentioned to you that I started this because of my son's journey with autism. So when I started the factory in Bridgeport, I was able to start hiring people with development disability. And it's just something that I had never done in my life because before that, only people I hired were marketing people or salespeople. You know, and so here I need a lot of people to help me make products. And I started working with the high school programs that had young kids with autism. They come in here regularly. We give them meaningful vocational training. And that's been a big part of um, manufacturing. And I've been really pushing that concept of development disabled adults are such an important part of the workforce. And the study we're doing with the state of Connecticut right now is that their output of these individuals is higher than their peers. And nobody believed that when I first made that statement, and we recorded it. And the reason it's higher is because autistic kids get very focused and they really are, they like repetitive stuff. And the more the stuff repeats, the faster they do it. So they get more and more efficient over time. And so, if you're in a factory setting or a manufacturing setting, hiring young people with development disability is a competitive advantage. And that's what we're out to prove. And so it's been a mission project for me for 2 years. And we're just, trying to do some meaningful work there. And then we want to show this data to other small businesses and say, you're really struggling to find labor. Here you've got tons of kids with autism who are struggling to find jobs. There you go.
That's amazing.
I love that. Just your overall focus on health and well-being and lifestyle and quality of life. I just think that is very inspiring.
Thank you.
It is very inspiring. I love it. I think that, and it's you have such a holistic, I can see that you do a lot of thinking because there's such a holistic approach to your life and to business. Even the spreading out the work week and the thinking. I mean, I lead and run a business, and to me, there's so many things I can resonate with and inspired by. It's like, hey, spend less so that you can operate longer. There's so many things there, just specialize internally so that you can be less reliant on expensive resources outside, or make creative arrangements to do it. I mean, that's one of the things we do is we try to find creative ways to make those relationships work. It's really, really great. Anything else that you're excited about or that you want to put out there?
I think we've been going through as businesses and as people really stressful last couple of years, right? I would say 23 years in. And I think it's going to improve, but I also think it's up to the individual, whether you're a business owner or a dad or, to take health and wellness into your hands. So a couple of things that I'm doing to do that. One is consuming less external media, right? So phones get shut off most of the time. Literally, you don't want that external stimuli coming in. Focus on a few things that can give you joy. So I have my calendar broken up into 3 colors: something that drains me, something that energizes me, and something that's neutral. And my entire calendar is color coded that way. And when I look at my week, I just want more green, less red. I can't stop the red, but I can certainly try to do more green. Yeah. So I think a lot of this is you have to figure out how to make health and wellness your priority, because that's the only way that we're going to be able to keep doing amazing work in the world. Is, you got to show up fully charged to deliver, right? And nobody's going to save you. You yourself have to save yourself. So
what a wonderful perspective. I know I was recently listening to Tim Ferriss and Marty Mushari talking about an energy audit, and we were Arnell and I we were talking about that. It's like, hey, how many things de-energize you, and you got to do them, but you do less. It's an amazing perspective. Let me ask you this, Arshad. Where can people find your products? We want to encourage our listeners to check it out, to check out the stories, and to check out the products. Where can they find them?
Yeah, so we're mostly e-commerce. So any of the e-commerce platforms, Amazon, Walmart, our website, they can just type in Amrita Bars, Amrita Health Foods, with the AMRITA. And yeah, they can find our protein bars. We just launched some new protein granola. We're doing a lot of innovative work with seeds, grains. So we're gluten-free, peanut-free, vegan, in terms of everything we do. So, and really the focus is on nutrient-dense food. So something that, you have and you feel good about eating that.
That's phenomenal. Arnell, you want to take us through the last sponsor message?
Absolutely. So this episode is brought to you by Firebelly Marketing. At Firebelly, we help mission-based food and beverage brands bring people closer through social media marketing. So if you're ready to use social media to create more community and excitement around your food or beverage brand, go to firebellymarketing.com to learn more.
Thanks so much again to Arshad Bahl from Amrita Health Foods. We're so happy you could join us, and you've been listening to another edition of the Firebelly Social Show with Arnell and Duncan, and we'll see you on the flip side.
Thanks for listening to the Firebelly Social Show. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.